All right, let's open a classified file. Now, this isn't just another explainer. Think of this as a gothic noir investigation. Our subject is a silent, cosmic conflict, one that's playing out in an abstract arena where ideas, well, they have the mass of stone. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on a god, the shadow that watches him, and the thunderous verdict that's waiting in the wings.
So, here's our evidence board, the 6 acts of this entire investigation. We're going to trace this thing from the very beginning, starting with the initial surveillance on this burgeoning Olympus. Then, we'll dive into the analysis of its creation and follow it all the way to the final chilling entry on our observer, the Jester, and his divine target.
Okay, Act 1. We begin with the stakeout. The file opens on a silent, almost crystalline vigil. Our analyst, a subject known only as the Jester, is maintaining a constant watch over a being designated Wotan, a post-human deity who has literally projected his will onto the scorched earth, building a whole new reality right out of the ashes of the old one.
Now, the first entry in this file makes one thing crystal clear. Wotan is no simple savior. He's classified as a hyper-ego. We're talking about a consciousness with so much force that it's trying to wrestle the chaotic, divine frenzy of existence itself into a structured, stable reality. He's literally trying to build a world out of nothing but sheer, focused willpower.
And this is absolutely crucial to understanding the Jester's role in all of this. His gaze isn't neutral. The file defines it as the psychoanalytic Thanatos drive, the death drive, personified. You see, he isn't just watching. He's quietly, coldly calculating the structural integrity of this new world. He's looking for every single stress fracture in a reality built on such radical, absolute affirmation. He's waiting for it to break.
And make no mistake about it, this stillness is anything but passive. The file notes it's a deep, judgmental silence. It's that heavy air right before a thunderstorm, the quiet moment a judge takes before delivering a final verdict on the entire cosmic wager that Wotan has bet on his own creation. The investigation now pivots. We're looking at a key piece of evidence. Let's call it Exhibit A, the technical lanterns that came out of a lab, Project Zarathustra. This, right here, is where we get Wotan's origin story.
You see, these lanterns were never, ever meant to create a god. They were just tools, born from classic human hubris. The project's goal? To capture and bind the very concept of will itself, to turn it into a weapon for humanity's petty wars. But they seriously miscalculated. They used gamma energy thinking it was a control mechanism, when all it did was open the floodgates for a primal force they could never hope to contain.
So the project didn't just fail. It backfired on a truly cosmic scale. Instead of making a servant, it unleashed the raw, untamed will to power. The frail scholar in that lab, just a Faust of the mind, was completely consumed and then reborn as the lightning itself, shattering the old slave morality in a single brilliant flash.
And here's how the Jester sees it, with his cold, analytical perspective. He reframes the whole event. He doesn't see some scientific accident. No, he sees the lab as an anti-womb, a crucible where the human had to die so that the divine could be born. This wasn't an evolution, it was a total, violent replacement.
From his hidden vantage point, the Jester's analysis now shifts to Wotan's masterpiece, the absolute centerpiece of his new reality, the Emerald Spire. The file describes it as this: phallic monument of Eros, an assertion of life pushing back against an encroaching, gray wasteland. To the rest of the world, to the last men just huddling in the ruins of the old world, that spire is everything. It's a defiant scream of life into a meaningless void. It is the meaning of the earth made real, a beacon of hope and order built from Wotan's own blood ink. But the Jester sees something else entirely. Through his cold, analytical gaze, this monument to freedom gets turned completely upside down. He diagnoses it as a god-sized cage, a self-imposed prison where Wotan, in all his glorious isolation, is just doomed to an exhausting, lonely cycle of endless creation, all to keep the void at bay.
And this, right here, this is the core of the Jester's entire worldview. He believes that what we call meaning, this thing Wotan is so desperately building, it's nothing more than an elaborate shield, a really sophisticated defense mechanism we build to protect ourselves from the terrifying, absolute horror of freedom that comes with a truly empty, meaningless existence.
Okay, Hold on, because this is where the file takes a very sharp turn. The Jester's role starts to shift. He's no longer just some passive analyst logging data from the shadows. He's becoming an active, disruptive force in this whole cosmic drama. And worse, he's finding this malicious joy in the collision he knows is coming.
So the file poses the critical question of our investigation. Wotan is building things, right? He's creating these technological lanterns, these artificial stars, trying to light a path for others. He's trying to forge a destiny. So what's the observer's endgame here? What is the Jester's real purpose in this story?
The answer, according to the dossier, is chillingly simple. The Jester exists to be a reflection. His job is to hold up a dangerous and grinning mirror to Wotan's grand creation, just to prove that the heroic, epic struggle of the creator is mathematically identical to the panicked, desperate flight of the herd. Both are just running from the exact same abyss.
If we look at this through a psychoanalytic lens again, the file basically says the Jester is the return of the repressed. He's the living embodiment of the chaos, the void, the nihilism that Wotan tried to build over. He is the uncanny equation made flesh, and he's just waiting for that moment when the Emerald Spire finally buckles under the weight of its own ambition.
All right, we're in our second to last act, and the Jester's true motive is about to snap into sharp focus. And the catalyst, it's a desperate move by his target. Wotan, feeling the immense weight of his isolation, starts looking for allies, for fellow creators who can stand in the lightning with him.
And here it is, laid bare. This is the central philosophical war of the whole case file. On one side, you have Wotan's amor fati, a love of fate, this drive to create a destiny, to build a mountain range of meaning. And on the other side, the Jester's odium fati, a hatred of fate. He fully embraces his role as a catalyst for destruction because he sees all creation as just a flimsy shelter from the inevitable storm of nothingness.
You know, it's important to understand this isn't just a simple desire for chaos. The file suggests it's a deep philosophical rebellion. His entire being, everything he does, it's a primal scream against the tyranny of truth, a complete rejection of the idea that any single being, even a god, has the right to force a single structured meaning onto the beautiful, chaotic void of existence.
And that brings us to the final entry. The board is set. The pieces are all in position. The Jester is preparing to make his move, to go from silent observer to active agent. The final verdict on Wotan's grand creation is imminent.
The case file lays out the end game with this cold, stark clarity. First, the observer becomes the agent of total negation. Second, Wotan's joyful burden of creation is directly threatened. This isn't a war fought with armies. It's a war between the meaning of the earth and the absolute vacuum. And the file's conclusion is grim. When the lightning of creation finally burns out, only the Jester's silence will be left.
So it all just boils down to this one final existential clash. Amor fati versus odium fati. The love of fate versus the hatred of fate. It's the unstoppable force of creation, that drive to impose a meaningful destiny on the universe, meeting the immovable object of entropy, that deep, quiet desire to return everything to a state of perfect, silent equilibrium.
And so, with the file closed, we are left with this one last unsettling question. In this grand cosmic wager between the one who builds a beautiful, meaningful cage to protect us from the void and the one who offers the terrifying absolute horror of total freedom, who truly wins? Who's the hero and who's the villain? That, I'm afraid, is for you to decide. Case closed.